to everyone! Here I come back to show you how to paint this fairy. For this project I would like to show you how to paint girls. I know some of you want to know how to paint girls because sometimes you paint girls and look like men and you have some typical mistakes. So for this video tutorial I'm going to explain you some tips and help you to improve your skill painting girls. For that I'm going to paint or start with my airbrush because I know some of you want or usually paint at the beginning with airbrush, and for that reason I decide paint this model with airbrush at the beginning. Remember, when you use the airbrush, take care about the dilution. In that case, when it's a base coat or a base coat with the airbrush, remember add a bit more paint, but not too much, because if you add a lot of paint, then you will have the typical mistake I was talking about in other video tutorials. Take care, because we hate clean the airbrush every time. For that reason, please use the same dilution as we used when we paint in the other way at the 80% of the miniature done with the glazes, more or less the same, but with a bit of paint more. Okay? And for that I'm going to show you a new trick. This is super easy trick. It's like a spray, and it's just spray over the wings. Just that, super easy. The trick to do it will be press the trigger more or less 50, not pressed perfectly, okay? With that, you will control the pressure, a bad control, and your airbrush start to spray like that. It's just that, super easy. And then we have to blend over it because it's a bit awful. To fix that will be with the next layers. Remember that at the beginning we'll use the base coat or the light color, and then we'll bring down the color to create shadows and mid-tones. Remember, the trick to blend that part will be the angle. Always try to paint under the model to blend and reinforce some shadows. And then, this is with the mid-tones, and then with a darkest color, it's the same angle, and reinforce them. If you have to blend in front of the model, take care, because the idea will be blend over this spray in some areas to get different results, different mid-tones, different shadows, different nuances, everything completely different on a similar surface. Remember, when you are painting something from the natural, take care, because you have to see first on Google or box some information about that, because if you don't know how is a wing from a butterfly, take care, because maybe the result will be unreal. For that, please first check some butterflies, for example, or fairies, this is up to you, and then decide what kind of wings do you want to represent. In my case, I made a mix between some wings, different wings from different butterflies, to represent that. Why? Because sometimes you will see some wings with a color that you love, but maybe the drawings on the wings, you don't like them. For that, you can mix with another one. For example, for that part, I create some freehands, but these freehands have mistakes. And you will think, why Sergio says have mistakes? Because if you paint everything completely perfect on something natural, like this fairy, will look like a man made it. Okay, will look like the wings was made it in a factory. Please take care with that, because this is natural, this is fantasy, but this is like a human, okay, is organic, and you have to create the freehands similar but a bit of different with little mistakes. For that, you can make mistakes. And then for this black part, This is just because when I've seen these butterfly wings on internet, I've checked that have black drawings on the wings, and for that this is a common drawing on the wings. So for that, please don't try to create a lot of light over this black color, because this, in my opinion, it's more natural if you have this black color completely flat or more or less flat. These wings, in that case, are bigger than you thought, because this is a 75 millimeters, but maybe it's close to 90 millimeters than in a 75. And for that reason, I decided to begin with the airbrush. For example, for that case, I decided to paint the skin with the airbrush too, to give you some tips. The first one will be use masking putty. This is interesting product to mask the surface, and don't paint the wings again. Mask with this product or blue tack or other masking putties, and will be perfect to cover the surface and don't make this mistake. Then think about everything I told you. We will start with the mid-tone, we will start with the first shadow, but in that case we will paint the mid-tone and then the first shadow. Why we want to paint the light color? Because if you have light, mid-tone and shadow, then you will have the feeling that your miniature is done, and you will paint the dark linings and light linings and the miniature is done. And this is a super common mistake. The airbrush is just to begin. Then you have to represent the lights, the volumes and everything where you want. So I'm going to give you this new key. First, paint the mid-tone, because when we use the airbrush we will paint with the mid-tone and bring down the light to the shadows, and we will use the same way to paint. The base coat for that will be mid-tone and then shadows. But if you see this skin tone, it's a bit darker than usual. For that, this is for me my first shadow, but to don't say something completely weird about first shadow and second shadow at the beginning, okay, will works as mid-tone and first shadow, but choose something darker, right? And then we will paint with the brush on the usual way I've painted, going to the light. If you check well, now I'm spending a lot of time using the second shadow to control where I want the shadows. This is super important, because if you spray on the model directly in front or on the bottom, trying to represent the volumes, maybe you will have mistakes. You will have shadows on mid areas or light areas, and this is super common mistake too. To fix that, try to aim well with airbrush, always going to the bottom to the top to represent the shadows, but taking care to represent and force some volumes like legs, arms, the chest, something like that, that you have to represent volumes like cylinders, and where you want to represent the light. Forget the zenithal light now, okay? You have to have the light over the model, but please don't think that everything have to be on the top of the model, because in my opinion you have to paint the light in the front view, on the front view, right? Because on the front view you can represent a lot of mid-tones, nuances, freehands, everything. If you represent the light on the top of the model, like a zenithal light, then you will have a dropped shadows around the model and a lot of dark colors on the front view, and your miniatures won't have light, won't have these kind of volumes I represent. And as you see, paint with airbrush is super fast. So take care, keep attention where you want to represent the shadows, search information on Google, internet to know where it's interesting, or how to paint skin, or where you should paint the darkest shadows, something like that. If you are feeling that you know how to paint a skin, go ahead and go for it. Okay, this is masking putty. This is the product I used to cover the wings. And this is super interesting product because it's like sticky, but it's not look like glue. It's interesting. It's clean. It's a clean product. Okay, this is the moment to start to use the brush. I don't know if you are ready to use the brush after you use the airbrush, but I have to teach you, and this is new lesson. I'm going to explain you how to continue working with the brushes on a surface painted with the airbrush. For that, I recommend you use 2 drops of water inside of the mix, a bit of water more than usual when we use capibases, right? Why? Because if you add a bit more of water inside of the mix, you will have the possibility to paint with the same mix 2 layers, and will be perfect to create a gradient. Not like a perfect gradient, but will be easier to control, because then remember we'll use the airbrush to blend again. If you see, with the same color, I create different lights or volumes. Remember, this is the same as we used in another video tutorials when we started with the brush, going from the first shadow to the light. This is the same way, and just think about the dilution. We'll have a bit more water. I explain you with 2 drops of water because to me it's enough, but if you want to add a bit more, it's okay. But remember, your mix have to cover with 1, 2, or 3 layers, not more, please. With 2 will be perfect, and with 1 it's enough, but maybe you will have to create double mixes. If you add 2 drops of water, you will have the possibility to make 3 mixes or 4 mixes to create 7 or 8 layers difference. And now it's the moment to explain you how to paint a female face. This is super interesting for a lot of you, and this is the tutorial for that. At the beginning, you'll see that I changed directly some volumes of the face. If you see on the side, on the right side, I create light directly because I don't want a sharp face. I want to create something bigger. It's like more flat face. I want to create more mid-tones on the front view. So I don't want to create something sharp like that, okay? I try to move the light to the both sides. Think that you have to create the light on the cheekbones, okay? Chin, forehead, nose, and on the lips. And always I recommend paint some light on the jaw muscle, okay, like that. And then some areas where you have to create shadow will be under the cheekbone, that part, and here, okay, under the nose, and the lips for sure. And as you can see, I create the light over the model, not just one part. I have to build up all the volumes, all the lights together. If you don't know what kind of color do you want for your skin, I recommend you start with the body, okay? Chest, body, legs, something not super important like the face, okay? Because if you paint with a lot of glazes or a lot of layers and your mix color it's not your favorite color or the color you imagine, the problem will be that maybe at the end you have to repaint, and then if you have to repaint again, maybe it's the moment when you remove detail. Just that. If you see on the arm, I've painted the light on the front view. I forgot it completely, the zenithal light. On the top of the elbow you have to have light, but if you see around the arm, I have light in the middle to represent like a cylinder, to create a force volumes with not too much contrast. New trick. And on the eyes, these black lines or dark lining to me will be maybe the unique makeup I'm going to create on this female face. Because a fairy with makeup, I don't like them. I prefer something more natural, like a fairy in the forest. Okay, if you see on the nose, the flap nose, I create dark lining, but with this mid color, okay? I don't use something super dark, but I have to represent something darker than the rest of the skin to represent something there, because this is information. About that part of the nose, this is not important, because sometimes if you see manga cartoons, you will see that on the Japanese cartoons, they remove that part directly. And it's okay, but they paint that part. It's more or less the same. You can remove it if you want. I don't want to remove everything, but for sure you can create light on both sides to remove a bit. And for the lips, as you see, this is super easy. Just choose a dark color and paint everything like that, because then we are going to the light. So we have the possibility to remove the mistakes. This is super important, okay? The jaw. I want to represent on that miniature something completely sharp, okay? For that I choose this dark color, okay? If you don't want girls with a sharp jaw, don't use this kind of color. I'm going to explain you how to change volumes or how to remove volumes or create the volumes that you want for your female face. The jaw, it's super important, okay? Because some people want a girl with a jaw, with a perfect defined jaw, a sharp jaw, and someone prefers something more smooth on that part. So you have to create a shadow, but the contrast will be from your taste. And something to relax, we are going to paint a capibase on the hair. This is just to relax a bit. Then we'll strike back again to paint the skin. This is my old number 2, and I love it. Should have a good point, this brush, but as you see, don't have now a good point. Okay, after that, it's moment to reinforce again the volumes, going to the light. Now we have something natural, the face looks like a face, but I don't want to stop now. I want to create more light on this female. As you see at the beginning, I start to continue drawing some muscles or volumes that I have something with information on that. For example, nose is important. Close to the eyes, it's important too, on the cheekbones. Close to the mouth, super important. This is eyes and mouth. It's the part with more expression female on a face. So this is the most important part. And then the chin, but this is just to create this volume. The light on the chin, it's like on the jaw. It's up to you, it's your taste. If you want a chin sharp, you have to create more light here, or if you don't want something sharp, it's with just 1 or 2 layers. Think always about volumes, spheres, cylinders, squares, because it will be easier to understand more or less what kind of volume I have to represent. And forget the center light. If you compare now between both sides, you can see the difference when you paint with more light and when you paint with less light. So this is just the beginning, because I'm going to reduce the area to represent more light on that part and create more volume. The idea will be just paint in little areas with more light and more light. Please don't forget the forehead. This is important too. First, don't paint wrinkles on the forehead. If you paint wrinkles on a forehead from a man, I don't like it, but for sure you can do it. But when it's a girl, try to remove all the wrinkles that it's possible, because if you paint wrinkles at the end, could be look like a man and people will say, hey, this is awesome, but the face, it's like a man. So for that, please try to remove the wrinkles, just for that, okay? I know the girls have expressions too and have wrinkles too, but this is a miniature, it's super tiny, and maybe you will paint with a lot of contrast, and the contrast is not real, and the result will look like a man, not like a female. It's just a trick. Another trick, move the light to the center. For that I said, think about cylinders. Okay, that part I'm drawing now, the top of the lip. This is super important. Usually people don't paint that part. This is interesting to create a light lining to represent expression on the lips and to define and say the lip finished or start here, okay? So this is the idea. I hope you feel it's easy to paint like that, and I hope you see your models on that way. So the faces start to look like a girl, but this is just the beginning. I'm going to show you more tricks. I'm going to show you a lot of tricks on that video tutorial, different way, different techniques. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video tutorial, and see you in the next video tutorial, next streaming painting with Vanessa. So thank you very much for your support, and I hope you enjoy painting like that. See you next time. Bye bye.